All right, we're on.
Good evening and welcome to the Planning and Zoning meeting for December the 5th, 2024. Thank you for everyone for coming out tonight. Our first order of business will be our public hearings. The first public hearing will be the amendment to section 405.395, notices to adjacent property owners, amendment -139. And in our order of agenda here, we have the city staff will present their side of this issue. So, Mr. Burks.
As a preliminary matter for this public hearing, I would ask that the publication notice published in Warren County Record be made part of the record by reference, the city comprehensive plan and the city ordinance be made part of the record by reference, and the planning and zoning officer report be made part of the record by reference. This is an approval request for amendment to section 405.395, notice to adjacent property owners, AMD 139. The only thing we're changing, there's two places in this section we're going to change, is number one, the Plot Review and Planning and Zoning Commission, the city clerk, we're going to take that out and replace it with the Planning and Zoning Development Director. And down in number C, we're going to replace the city clerk with the Planning and Development Director for mailing the notices out. So the public hearing was posted in Warren County Record on November 14th of 2024. That's all I have on that one.
Okay. Since there's no applicant in that situation, I'll open it up to the public for any comments on that. Hearing none, we'll close our public hearing for that and move on to our second public hearing, which will be the Mann Apartments, PUD-004. Mr. Burks, if you'll bring us up to speed on that.
Okay, as a preliminary matter for this public hearing, I will ask that the publication notice published in Warren County Record be made part of the record by reference, the city comprehensive plan and the city ordinances be made part of the record by reference, and the planning and zoning officer report be made part of the record by reference. This Mann Apartment Plan Unit Development, PUD-004. Applicant is James Mann. The location is 2304 and 2308 Donna Marie Drive. Just a second. This PUD, he plans on, there is a boundary line adjustment with this to combine those two lots into one and to build two buildings, each with two-story high, containing 4 residential units in it. This was previously, when that subdivision was platted for multifamily. There's multifamily that surrounds it on 3 sides. However, the lot size is insufficient. The size is only 0.91 acre. PUD requires a 3-acre minimum lot on that side. Okay. And that's all I have on that one.
And is the applicant here for today?
Yes, the applicant is here. Bart's here.
All right. You guys have 10 minutes to present your agenda there. I'm sure you won't need the whole 10 minutes.
Yeah, if I take up the whole 10 minutes, you guys need to kick me out. But
all right.
Anyway, for the record, Bart Corman, Lewis and Beatty Surveyors and Engineers. Also have James and Amanda Mann here, the owners. Mr. Burks did a good job presenting what we're doing. It's 2 lots. We're going to combine them with a boundary adjustment plat to make it 1 parcel. It is just slightly under an acre. It is 8 units with 2-story townhomes, 4 unit each. Very, very similar to what's in that area. With a lot of multifamily right there. Very similar concept setup. It's just a couple of the lots that weren't built earlier. We have to go through the PUD process because that's the only process we could do with this. Got a stormwater basin in the back, slow the water down. Got our mailbox and landscaping and everything as there. And we'll answer any questions anybody has throughout the process, but we are here to do so.
Thank you, sir. Anyone in the public would like to talk on behalf of this issue tonight? You have 5 minutes with a 30-second wrap-up? I know you won't. State your name, sir.
Wolf. I live at 434 State Highway U, last house in the city limits, Warrenton. I'm here to support Mr. Mann's request. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anyone else in the public who would like to speak on behalf tonight? Hearing none, we'll close that public hearing and open up our next public hearing, which is Zone Change -78, Dobbs Tire and Auto Center Zone Change. Mr. Burks?
As preliminary matter for this public hearing, I will ask the publication notice published in the Warren County Record be made part of the record by reference. The city comprehensive plan and the city ordinance be made part of the record by reference, and the planning and zoning officer report be made part of the record by reference. This is Dobbs Tire Auto Center rezone ZC 78. The applicant is Dobbs Tire and Auto Center. The location is 601 North State Highway 47, west of 47 and south of Veterans Memorial Parkway. It's a 3.02 acre tract of land. It currently has 2 zonings, medium density, single family on the west side, and RC1 plan business district on the east side towards 47. Dobbs Tire and Auto Center is seeking to zone change to reclassify a 3.02 acre vacant tract of land to C3 highway commercial. The purpose change aims to align the zoning of this parcel with the adjacent lot to the north, that is C3. And the representative here for Dobbs Tire, if you have any questions.
Does the applicant want to address to us? You got 10 minutes to address this real quick, sir? Thank you. State your name for the record.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, good evening. My name is Brandon Harp with Civil Engineering Design Consultants, here tonight on behalf of Dobbs Tire and Auto Center. Also here tonight with me is Kate Mitchell with Arc Images. She is the architect. We actually have 4 items on the agenda tonight. We have the rezoning, the boundary adjustment plat, the site plan review, and the conditional use permit. So I do have just a brief presentation. I can go through just the zoning component now, just to add on what Mr. Burke said, or I don't know if there's an opportunity later to talk about the whole project in its entirety. Whatever this commission would like us to do, we can do that.
No, I'm double check with Melanie, but
Go ahead and do it now. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
And then maybe on the next public hearing issue, then I can just introduce myself and then answer any questions.
Sounds
So thanks for having us tonight. We really appreciate it. Let me go through this briefly here. Just
Should work. At the side, click. There you go.
All right.
okay, again, we're here tonight for 3 requests. The first public hearing that we're here for tonight is ZC-78 rezoning, as Mr. Burke said, from the R2 and RC1 to C3. That's for the 3-acre tract. There's already an adjoining parcel, which is just over 4 acres, which already is C3. So we are in adjacent zoning to what our request is tonight. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Dobbs Tire and Auto Center. They're throughout the area. They are expanding pretty aggressively right now throughout, starting in the St. Louis area and working their way out. So they're very excited to be in this market in the city of Warrenton. I believe everybody's aware of the site, 601 North Highway 47, just north of the Dollar General, south of the First Community Bank, on the west side of the highway. The site is currently vacant. I believe there was an old residence there at one time with a kind of a circle drive in front. This is what we're looking at from the existing conditions. You can see the 4.5 acre tract that's already zoned C3, and then the parcel to the south, which is the 3.02 acre, which has 2 zoning districts in it. So to allow for the Dobbs use, we're requesting the rezoning of that 3.02 acre to the C3 to make it consistent with the C3 to the north, and then subsequently to get rid of the boundary line between the two to have one parcel, so we can build and not build over a property line. The adjacent zoning, C3 is to the north. We got the small town district commercial to the south, then residential to the west. This was the zoning exhibit that was in the packet that clearly showed with the different colors, the purple, which is the existing C3, and then the other two, the RC1 was, so I was trying to remember, up along the street there, and rezone that all to the C3. Obviously, our proposal tonight is really for a Dobbs development in the front along Highway 47. We're asking for the rezoning of the whole tract just because there's nothing proposed for the remaining part of the property right now. Obviously, if they came back in, we'd have to go back through and get a site plan reviewed if anything was proposed in the future. So again, also there's a conditional use permit and a site plan. So this is our site plan, which I believe you've seen in your packet. It's roughly a 9,000 square foot Dobbs Auto Center. It's got 10 bays for auto service, 79 parking spaces, one access point off of the state highway in the front. That location has been approved by MoDOT already in writing. All the utilities are adjacent to the property. Water, we are extending an 8-inch main under the street, bringing a fire hydrant at the request of the city over to our site. The site has topography that falls off, as you know, to the west. Stormwater would be in that basin shown to the west. We do have 2 retaining walls, one on the northwest corner and one on the southwest corner, just because we have to flatten out the site more for the use. Per staff's review and our review of the site plan, we do meet all the city's zoning requirements and ordinances for all the density calculations, setbacks, landscaping, lighting, etc. The elevations are also submitted in your packet. I don't necessarily need to go through these unless you'd like me to, and Kate Mitchell can answer any questions regarding the detailed part of them. And then our additional request tonight is the boundary adjustment plat, which I do not believe is a public hearing. And that would be basically taking the 2 properties and combining them into one 7.52 acre piece of property. And that's how our site plan sits in that overall 7.52 acres. You can see it sits up near the front, kind of in line directly with the retail building to the south, and then with the bank to the north, and create some consistency with that street line along Highway 47. We did submit the plat as a professional survey, Marler Surveying Company, and that is the project. Happy to answer any questions regarding it, and like I said, Kate's here as well to answer any questions from the architectural.
Thank you. We'll do that. We'll bring up questions when we open it up in the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your time. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on behalf of this project tonight? Hearing none, we'll close that public hearing and open up the next one, which is the conditional use permit. Mr. Burks?
As a preliminary matter for this public hearing, I'll ask that the publication notice published in Warren County Record be made part of the record by reference, the city comprehensive plan and the city ordinances be made part of the record by reference, and the planning and zoning officer report be made part of the record by reference. This is Dobbs Tire and Auto Center conditional use and site plan. They're both combined in one report. CUP 99 for the public hearing. The applicant is Dobbs Tire and Auto Center. The location is 601 North State Highway. This tract is total tract acreage is going to be 7.52, and the zoning would be proposed to C3 Highway Commercial. Dobbs Tire and Auto Center seeks a conditional use and a site plan approval to establish a 8,728 square foot vehicle service center under the city code, and Appendix A, motor vehicle service and repair shops are listed as a conditional use. That's all I have on that one. Do you have any questions for me?
At this time? Is the applicant okay with that?
Yes.
Anybody in the public who would like to speak on behalf of that at this time? Hearing none, we'll close our public hearings for this evening and open up our regular planning and zoning meeting for this evening. And the first order of business will be the minutes from the October the 3rd, 2024 P&Z meeting.
I will make a motion to recommend approval of the minutes for the Thursday, October 3rd, 2024 meeting as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Stella, second by Mr. Cooper to approve the minutes as submitted. Any other further questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
I'll abstain, I think I was absent.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Ms. Cullum?
Abstain, I was absent.
Mrs. Madden is absent. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes. Everybody?
That's everybody. I think. Did I miss somebody? No. No, I got everybody. We're good.
Motion passes. Next order of business will be our public comments. The public comments is each person could have 5 minutes with 30-second wrap-up. If anyone wants to speak on behalf of anything that was brought up in the public hearings that didn't get a chance to speak. Hearing none, we'll close our public comments section and open up next agenda. That's the amendment to section 405.395 on notices to the adjacent property owners. Mr. Burks, did you have anything more for us, or?
No, that was it, just those two changes.
Yep.
We're moving the city clerk and adding the planning and development
Any
director.
commissioners need to discuss this, or are you okay with the changes that were made? Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Yep. So I guess I don't have a problem with the fact that we're transitioning from the city clerk to the planning and development director. My question was, if I can find it again.
Are you looking for some mustard on that sandwich?
Disregard.
It was in a different.
Little inside joke there.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the updates to ADM 139 as displayed discussed.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Cullum, second by Ms. Cullum to approve the amendment to section 405.395 as submitted. Any other further questions or comments? Roll call vote?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Ms. Cullum?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Next order of business will be the boundary adjustment plat for lots 135 and 136 of Andorra Estates, re-subdivision of Plat 4, subdivision -127. Mr. Corman, you want to come back up for any questions that the board might have for you? Or Mr. Mann, if we ask you, we'll call you guys too, so.
Mr. Corman, I did have a question. So,
In yours. Speak a little closer, yeah.
Go ahead.
so the two lots will be coming together, so it's .9 for one lot and then the other, and it'll be a total of 3 acres. Did that meet the requirement?
It does not meet the requirement.
It does not.
The minimum requirement right now is 3 acres.
Right.
And the total lot size with them combined will be 0.91. Just a
Oh,
little
okay.
less than an acre.
Yeah, I misunderstood if the two lots together were going to be the 3 acre or not.
No.
Okay.
They're just needing to combine those two as one for the PUD.
Okay.
Everything has to be built on one lot for PUD.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Corman? He is waiting patiently. He's used to being on a time limit, though.
On the clock. I don't have questions as much as just, and this is the entire project here.
Right.
The fact that I'm familiar with the property, I'm familiar with the surroundings, and it certainly makes sense that apartment buildings be built on that. I just have an issue with the fact that we do have an ordinance and restrictions on this PUD is 3 acres and
Right. Yeah, you're done. I'll kind of address this. You know, I know the board and the P&Z board had a workshop to look at doing some duplex, quadplex allowables for small sites like this one that hasn't moved forward. There is, in the PUD, it does 3 acres. City council's here, they can look at that. I believe it allows for the board to waive that requirement. So there is some flexibility in that code, but that's an attorney question, not me. So with this situation, that this is all we can do is present it through this process. We know it fits. We know that was the intent here. So this is our process we're here for. The zoning part with that 3 acres is I kind of figure what might be the hang up or the resistance a little bit. But we know that is flexible within the code the way I read it when it first came out, but I haven't read it recently. But that would be up to your council and what your intent was when you did do the PUD
Can you take
changes.
You mentioned something a little while ago. Can you take us back to maybe when this project even first started? I don't even know what year that was. Because like Mr. Cornell said, though, that it kind of fits in that area. And originally, you were talking about a while ago that when that was built, that this piece of property wasn't developed at that time.
Right.
And
yeah,
it could have been. And it could have been at that time and fit the.
It could have, before 2008 or so, when we started putting some restrictions on how to split duplexes or quadplexes. Under R3, it could have been a simple conditional use permit process until we adopted the PUD stuff, because I believe it's zoned R3 if I'm not mistaken. It is. So until the PUD process came along, we could have been here with a conditional use, follow the requirements with the parking, the landscaping, and everything, which we're doing here as well, and go through that procedure just as fine. We've evolved a little bit and done the PUDs, so there's some give and take, on those, and I know those are intended for the bigger developments that you can't divide. This one just happens to be a small one. We're truly in a hardship. You can't get 3 acres. I mean, it's built all the way around it, so it's not like there's an empty field owned by the same person that's just choosing only to do 0.9 acres. So that's why we're here. We're trying to go through the process the best we can. We know it's not perfect with the way the code's written, but we think that there's enough wiggle room to proceed forward.
But I also think that that's one of the reasons why, when they discussed that, and we all discussed that at that meeting, to allow us to have some flexibility, because I've said this all along. I've been on the board for 29 years now, and or something like that, long time. We're not talking about a new city. We're talking about an old city with some distinct situations that come up that we have to be flexible and creative but still be fair to the process as well. So, and I think this is one of those situations where the flexibility, Lou, and I might turn this over to the attorney and ask him if he sees anything problem with this.
Right.
Thanks, sir.
So, excuse me. So the code allows for the board to, if a standard is met based on historical character, topography, or landscape features, as whether or not then the area requirement could be basically reduced.
And I think in this, go ahead, Mr. Costello.
Well, obviously there are existing apartments literally across the street that are as many living units or more that were developed a number of years ago. I'm curious to know, as I look at where the 2 proposed units are to be built, they actually sit within the 2 individual lots, separate from one another.
They do.
My assumption is that the reason the planned unit development is being requested is that if you were just building 2 quadplexes as rentals, to rent each of them to individuals, you could do that without the PUD, I'm assuming. I thought R3 allowed up to 4 units per lot.
Has to go under a PUD.
Yeah.
All
There's a
multifamily.
new ordinance.
With the new PUD.
So
yeah.
this is how we've changed it then, because
Yeah.
it had been, R3 did allow up to 4 with no special guidelines rules, so.
It does not anymore. And that's why, we could have presented 2 PUD plans and not done the boundary adjustment plat, but that would be more chaotic.
Okay. I was of the opinion or belief that perhaps the PUD would allow each of those individual units to be sold to the occupants to own the space that they occupied without having to conform otherwise with individual lots.
No, and the PUD does it actually opposite of that. The PUD restricts it that you cannot subdivide or parcel off any portion. That has to be owned in its entirety. And that's where the PUD has come into play on that, so.
My view on it is, it's no different than any other issue that comes up. The solution is not for us to continually vary from what the ordinance is. The solution is for the city to clean up the ordinance, and if we want to allow a multifamily on something that small, outside of a PUD, the city needs to take action. And I don't, I think that that's probably would be a very popular change. I just.
I got clients
Just
lined
to
up.
keep
ready to
coming back
go.
and asking for variance, not just on this issue, on any issue. If somebody has owned a piece of property and now the square footage minimum has been raised, well, can I come and say, I know the square footage minimum is here, I want to build where the square footage minimums were in 1960. I just have a problem with continually having ordinances in place and then we just willy-nilly.
I think I think where this one comes in though is, as our dear attorney said there, when he read that, and I'm glad you read that, this fits there.
That is for the board to decide whether or not that's.
I mean, in my
standard's met.
situation, when I listen to you,
But
this fits. Go ahead, Mr. Cole.
for the legal ramifications from what you stated, and it is our intent to view that, but we're stating that the conditional use for PUD approval, this would actually meet the intent for historical topography and the intent of the surrounding buildings, basically.
Well, that would be the decision that the board has to make, because the board has the ultimate authority to basically approve. But I do want to make clear that this is a PUD, there's no CUP associated with it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think
was
so-
thinking there was
so
a CUP with the PUD.
So the PUD, the plan unit development changes that are currently in the code predate me, but from my understanding, it previously was similar to a conditional use permit, but that has since been changed when this amendment was made.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, but just so I understand, within the PUD, there was a flexibility embedded within the code for these exceptions, because we knew that there are going to be some things that we may have to, and that is why the BOA approval requirement, correct?
Right, now I can't speak to the intent of why that section was included, but it is in the code there to allow for, if the board feels the standard's met, then they can basically reduce the 3-acre requirement.
Okay.
Well, my recollection on the flexibility on PUD I don't remember it ever having to do with allowing one on less acreage than the 3-acre minimum. And I'm not saying that what's proposed here is inconsistent with the neighborhood. It seems very consistent with the neighborhood. My recollection on making flexibility part of the PUD process had more to do with allowing you to change things that had to do with landscaping and taking a creative approach to allowing the PUD ways around issues of that nature. I kind of agree with Mr. Cornell if the Board of Aldermen feels like having PUDs allowed on less than 3 acres is acceptable and possibly even desirable, that we really need to address it at the code level.
Yeah.
My thought is at the moment that the only real remedy, I think it's a mistake to approve a PUD on less than 3 acres if our code says PUD requires 3 acres. Even though I feel like the proposed development itself makes a lot of sense. So I think the remedy right now, unless the city's going to revise the acreage requirement, is to approach it through the variance process.
It's been within the last 12 months that the size of the lot was one of the key points where we declined to approve, I believe it was on the backside of the Kroger lot. There was a PUD that came forward, and we pretty much out of pocket said, this doesn't even meet the minimum requirements because of the size of the lot. Again, this project should go there. We need to get our stuff together, and or the board, I guess, can take that up on their own, but.
I think an important question here, you've got multiple pieces of the same puzzle that are all asking for approval. The first of which is the boundary adjustment. The boundary adjustment is easy. Anytime an applicant comes in and says, I have 2 lots and I want to make it 1, there's really nothing about that is controversial.
Yeah.
It's actually, preferable, I think, in a lot of cases. So approving the the boundary adjustment, I think it makes sense, but I don't want it to imply that it also makes the rest of the requests that we're looking at tonight assumed to be agreed, because they may not be. And I don't know what the board's opinion is going to be when we send it up to them, whether we agree to all of it or not.
Right, and they are separate votes. And
Right.
we understand it on our end that they're separate votes, so.
My concern with the proposed boundary adjustment is, that comes first, we recommend approval, and then in a couple weeks, the board takes it up and they say, yeah, great, boom, your 2 lots are now 1. If the other things don't happen, it
Do you come
conceivably puts the property owner in a worse position, because now they have a single lot that previously could have been used to build 2 homes on. And now that can only be 1, and now it has to be re-subdivided if you ever want to do that again. So I have some hesitancy on putting the cart before the horse on this.
Mr. Costello, if you don't mind, we as an applicant have the ability to not proceed forward even after board approval.
Okay.
To not record the plat.
Okay.
So we have that ability. So if they trickle along and one gets hung up, the other one isn't forced into it.
Okay.
Okay, because we're doing it at the same time.
Okay.
So if we would do the boundary adjustment plat now and then come back 6 months from now and do a PUD, then obviously we'd already had the boundary adjustment plat put in place and it would have been recorded and proceed forward. But we could go through Board of Aldermen, they could approve one, and they could approve both of them for all that matter, and then we could say, we're not going to proceed with the project and not even act upon the boundary adjustment plat.
Okay.
So we have that ability within that window to act from the applicant side. So if we would for some reason get one approved and one not, if we would proceed forward, that would be the risk upon the applicant to take that if they wanted to combine the lot.
Okay.
So
I have a question on the variance. So right now we're submitting PUD because we don't meet, it's an exception. It doesn't meet the minimum required 3 acre for a PUD. So we need to kind of review it, or what is the variance? I need to understand what this means.
Hang on, go ahead, sir.
So
what's your,
it's a variance is actually a separate type of proceeding, right? So what the code allows for is basically an exception to the 3 acre minimum that the board, at the board level, Board of Aldermen, if they find that the standard's met with respect to how the code is written, then they could allow for less area.
Right.
yeah. So for example, if the flexibility wasn't in the code and it said it must be 3 acres no matter what in the code, and we'd have to come here, we would also have to present to the Board of Adjustment and request a variance from that code to proceed forward. But in this case, the code allows for the flexibility, so we don't have to do the Board of Adjustment procedure as well.
Could we hear the precise language in the
Yes.
code that
Please.
apparently allows the latitude to deviate from the acreage?
Right, so it says that after review and report by the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Board of Aldermen may approve a PUD of less area than specified herein if it finds that the land has a unique historical character, topography, landscape features, or is an isolated problem area which justifies the application for a smaller area.
Okay,
So-
that's specific.
Right, and again, that's the board's, the board has
Does this
the,
fall in the historical?
Well, I think historical means things specific to the property, the history of the property, not,
Oh.
Right,
not
not
historical in the
historical
sense
as
that
a
it's
sense.
got
I got it.
historical value, but
Got it.
that it's probably historical in the sense of when this was developed and how it was zoned and what else has gone on around it.
Right, and that would be, part of my presentation was, historically, the area around was developed multifamily.
reason.
This lot was intended there, it just wasn't built. So that's adding that historical feature in my presentation.
So the code allows the latitude to the Board of Aldermen. It doesn't specifically say that the Planning and Zoning Commission should consider the latitude.
right, yeah, so it's a,
Two separate approval.
right, it's a,
But we've never made the final decision anyway. We're just making
right, this is
recommendations.
just the recommending body, so
Yes.
it's, but the final authority and the final approval will be at the board level.
Right.
Agreed.
for the-
But
so for the-
I think to stand on, we have work sessions, right, on the acreage for specific purposes. And if, this is just me personally, consistently, because we have a very similar example not that long ago, if we had, denied a property because they didn't meet the, requirement, I'm leaning towards a similar decision, just for consistency purposes. Now, I understand that you have to consider all of the historical and the rest of the language there, but that's just personally my point.
And
of view.
every case has to be met on its own merit.
Right.
We can't compare one versus the other. I mean, because if you're starting to look at that one, we basically decided that wasn't a good place for that kind of project.
Agreed.
But now we're saying this is a good place for this project, so we can't be contradicted too, so.
Yeah.
But whoever makes the motion has to make it in the affirmative, and then if you want to vote no, you can vote
I
no.
have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just before we think about that.
Sure.
So we're combining the property into one,
Yes,
and then you're developing 2 units
yes.
within that one parcel. And how many units, how many, 2-story, how many,
They're 2-story,
Each level.
4 units per building, so a total of 8 units total.
okay, so it's somewhat consistent with that's already there. Okay.
So,
Unless there's more questions or concerns, at least as far as the boundary adjustment, I
Yeah,
would make
we
a
could go
motion
to
to
the
recommend
boundary.
approval of the boundary adjustment as requested.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Mr. Costello, second by Mr. Cullum to approve the boundary adjustment plat for lots 135 and 136 of the Andorra Estates, re-subdivision of plat 4, subdivision -127. Any other further questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Ms. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes, motion passes 9-0 with 1 absent. Next order of business will be the Mann Apartments.
I would like to make a motion to approve the PUD for the SUBD 128. Wait. Did you click the
Sorry.
screen? I'd like to make a motion to approve the PUD 004 Mann Apartments as presented.
Second.
Who was that? Mr. Cornell. So I have a motion by Mr. Cullum, second by Mr. Cornell to approve the Mann Apartments PUD-004. Any other questions or comments before we even get started on voting?
One more question.
Okay.
Is there like a fence or something? It's hard to tell on this diagram if there was any fencing, because there's homes already back there.
Right, so the homes back there already have a fence on most of it.
Where, if are they putting one or not?
They are not, they're just, because so to the south is a chain link fence. And to the east is a wooden privacy fence for the most part. I think there's some of it that's not fenced, but for the two owners in the south and to the southeast are. But we were not proposing any fences at this time.
And the homeowners that would abut the property, they have every right, if they ever choose to do so, to put a fence on the property line of their own volition.
Okay.
Any other
And then-
questions?
And then how many parking did it say? I'm sorry, it was really hard to, that was super tiny. I gotta come back to it.
2, 4, 6.
Yeah, we have at least 16 spaces.
Yep.
Okay.
2, 4, 6, 16.
So just for some fun facts on PUDs, the neat thing about the flexibility of the PUDs is if we couldn't fit enough parking spaces in there, we could go less than the code because it's a PUD. And that's where you exchange it and say, we planted extra trees because we couldn't plant, or because we couldn't fill the parking spots. So that's the PUD flexibility instead of the rigid code requirements that we once had. So.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Did you have a comment?
No.
You sure look like it.
I thought you were asking for a motion. I was gonna tell you that there was already a motion on the floor.
Yeah,
It's on
got a
the
motion on the floor. So if there's no other questions or comments, we'll have a roll call vote. Melody?
Mr. Cooper?
No.
Mr. Dieterman?
No.
Mr. Cornell?
No.
Ms. Cullum?
No.
Mr. Miller?
No.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Lost count.
It's
4 to 5?
4, yeah, 4
and 5 against. Okay. And that'll just be the recommendation to the board, but that'll be up to them. And and that'll come in front of the board on what date?
December 17th?
December 17th. Thank you,
guys.
Mr. Corman, for your understanding there.
Yep, thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Mans. Next order of business will be the Dobbs Tire at Auto Centers, zone change -78.
We were talking earlier.
You want me to read the information on that?
7 acres.
I'm okay on it. I mean, I think,
We have 4 things to
can you
approve.
step to the podium? Because I know,
Yeah.
as you just witnessed, we're going to have some questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ms. Cullum.
There's 4 things. Which one are we reviewing first?
The zone change.
Okay.
Yep. Which is from,
Back to this.
they want to make them all consistent to zone C3.
And the zone change is just going to be the southern portion, the
Right, 'cause it's already-
3.2 acres.
Yeah.
Or 0.2 acres.
The blue and the orange in the picture.
Is the RC1 and R2, is that a separate, are you combining that into one parcel or no?
We're combining the two parcels into one. There's 3 zoning districts on 2 parcels.
Yeah.
So we're proposing to consolidate the 2 parcels to 1 lot.
Okay.
And there's already one of the parcels is C3. The other parcel has 2 zoning districts on it. So at the end of the day, we'll have 1 parcel and 1 zoning.
Okay, so which one are we reviewing? The ZC 78?
78, yep.
Or,
The ZC 78 is the only one
Okay.
on the board right now.
thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ZC 128 Dobbs rezoning alignment.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Mr. Cullum, second by Mr. Durbin to approve the Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers zone change from ZC-78. Any other question or comments? Roll call vote?
Mr. Dieterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Ms. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0, and that'll move us on down to the boundary line adjustment plat for the First State Community Bank subdivision. No. Well, that's,
What? Where are we?
that's the next on the list, right?
Yes.
All right,
So
so
now you'll be combining those 2 lots
Into one.
into one, Lot 2A.
Got it.
so it's the same piece of property,
Same piece of property, yes.
just under a different name right
So
now.
the first one we rezoned, The second one is to combine.
To combine.
Okay.
Find the boundary
I'm
lines.
following.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Harp had already talked about that, but does anybody have any questions for Mr. Harp or Ms. Mitchell?
I make a motion to approve sub-div 128. Is that the right one? Yep.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Cullum, second by Mr. Cornell, to approve the boundary line adjustment plat for First State Community Bank Subdivisions SUBD-128. Any other questions or comments?
No, I just yawned and I was like, oh, it's too cold and dark outside. Go ahead. No, I didn't have anything.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Ms. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterman?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. And the last order before we close the meeting tonight will be the Dobbs Tire and Auto Center's conditional use permit and site plan CUP 99 and SP 178. Are we doing these together?
Do we need to?
Or
Sure.
two different motions?
Two different motions.
Thank you.
Both items are on one report.
Right. So we'll start with the CUP first. Is that the one that should be going
Can
first, you
we-
think, or?
Which one is that
That's
one?
this one, right? That's the conditional.
Yeah, yes.
Let's do the conditional use permit first. That's where we have to come up with some,
I need the photo. Where is it? Can you, do you have the presentation again? I think he had,
oh, yeah. But
thank you.
I had one question, just out of personal, for those that have been on the board long enough to understand this question. The paint job that we saw in the pictures,
What,
the paint job that we saw in the pictures,
Is it on slide
colors
10?
of
The elevation.
you know,
Okay.
like the
Slide 10.
that's traditionally what Dobbs has,
Right.
right?
yes.
Okay.
Is that what we're gonna see at the finished product?
Yeah, I mean, they have a few different prototypes,
Yeah.
but this is similar to a lot of them that have been built, yes.
We're sensitive to that because we had a bait and switch on a different property in a very close proximity to that where you're wanting to do
Okay.
this.
I mean,
Which
yeah,
we will
what,
not
that's
name.
that's the elevations that were approved by Dobbs for us to submit
Yeah.
for this site.
Can we see 9 again? I have a question. So the back lot, you're only using part of this property. The part where it says green, you're not using, or do you have any plans for?
That's why in my presentation, I mentioned that it's all going to be one lot, but Dobbs is using the front portion of that lot.
Yep.
There are no plans for the back part of the property. If there, in the future, ever is to be any, they would have to come back in front of this commission.
So it would stay like
What's the retention
wooded
pond?
area, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no plans
Okay.
that I've been
It's
told.
currently stormwater, it's designed to be stormwater detention anyway, right?
Well, the area that's going to be cleared would be for the stormwater management. We're not going to extend past that for any reason as part of this project, and nothing that I'm aware of in the future.
The green area in the middle that kind of looks like a racetrack, I'm assuming that's the lowest point, and that's where the detention will
Yes, sir.
take place.
Okay. And then how many parking did you say on that was?
There's 79 parking
And
spaces.
then 10 bays?
There's 10 bays in the building for working on the cars. They come in from each side of the building, so 5 on the east, 5 on the west, with the overhead doors, as shown on the architectural elevations.
And then on the boundary side, there's like, you have, the green parts are more like bushes or things like that, like landscaping?
Yeah, the city has a required parking setback, which we meet, and that they have a required landscape
Perfect.
planting requirement, and we meet that landscape code.
Okay.
With regard, since it's a conditional use request, do we need to specify, I'm not hearing any conditions from anyone on the commission. Should we at least specify that the conditions are that it be developed as per the plan with the landscape plantings, et cetera? Or can we recommend approval
Yeah,
with no
that's-
conditions?
That's the question for attorney here.
Right, so the conditional use permit will have the site plan tied to it,
Yeah.
which will have the
Which is-
plantings and landscaping and
Yep.
all that stuff as well. So that'll be, compliance with the site plan will be a built-in condition.
Okay, so
Okay.
that'll at least satisfy the base condition. And if we have no further conditions to add, it's appropriate just to make the motion.
I just had one question. Hours, typical hours of operation.
They're all a little different. Most of the time, a lot of them start at 6 a.m. and somewhere between 9 p.m. max. If you're going to tie that to the CUP, I'd like to have some flexibility because that was not something that was talked
My main
about.
thing was I'm thinking about the businesses that are close, and I think the hours are comparable. I just didn't want there to be a late night shift where
There's
it's
not,
going to
no.
interfere with residents in the area.
It's normal Dobbs hours that they would do, yeah. Enough time after work where people can go get their car after work, things like that, but no, nothing like at midnight or anything like that.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
that's a good question, thank you.
But to answer your question, the CUP and the approvals are all tied to what we submitted. So if for some reason we have to as we go further along, we have to come and we have to change something, I would imagine staff would have to make a determination if it's significant enough to bring it back to you, and we would if we had to do that.
Well, I think the reason we were asking the question, your submission is very thorough.
Yeah.
And it addresses everything in the code that we see. It's unusual for us to approve a conditional use permit without putting
Without a condition.
conditions on it. So that,
The less information we provide, you're going to have to do that to cover yourself,
Right.
for sure.
Thank you for your, thank you for the-
Thank you for the details.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the proposed site plans for, what is this one?
Conditional use.
Conditional use
Oh, sorry.
99.
Sorry, separate site plan. Conditional use CUP-99? Yeah,
With no conditions?
no additional, right?
Just what the,
What was proposed?
Okay.
second that?
motion by Mrs. Cullum, second by Mr. Cooper to approve the Dobbs Tire and Auto Center conditional use permit -99 with no extra conditions except for what was presented in the application that will be tied to this. Any further questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Ms. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0, and then the last order of business will be the Dobbs Tire and Auto Center's site plan -178, which we just discussed there pretty detailed.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Dobbs Site Plan 178 as presented and discussed.
Second?
We have a motion by Mr. Cullum, second by Mr. Cornell to approve the Dobbs Tire and Auto Center site plan -178. Any other question or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Dieterman?
Yes.
Mr. Cornell?
Yes.
Ms. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0. Thank you, Mr. Hart, Mrs.
Thank you.
Mitchell. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate
you.
it.
Hope everything works out. Welcome
Thank
to the
you.
community.
December 17th then
Yes.
for us as well, for the CUP?
Yes, same time.
Okay.
We're excited for you guys. Thank you. Any other, we'll close the meeting and turn it over to Mr. Burks.
Okay, so we do have one item on the agenda for January.
Doors.
Now, the meeting is scheduled for January 2nd. Do you guys want to move that to January 9th or leave it on the 2nd?
Thank you.
Second's good with me.
Seconds.
Yeah, I think we can keep it.
Getting out of town, so don't.
Did we say
It's on a
keep it?
Thursday, but it's
Yeah.
next day after the first,
Yeah,
so.
I think
Football
the
game.
consensus
Everybody will
says keep.
have a 2 days chance for, we'll say, rest and recovery prior to the 2nd at 6.
We'll need a second, because I have meetings on the 9th, so
So we have one item on the agenda.
that's fine.
Quick and easy.
Anybody else for the good of the group?
No, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Cullum, second by Mr. Costello to adjourn. Any other further questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye.